Why US houses are built from wood and Europe uses brick. All right, I'm really excited for this one because I need some clarification. If you were to look at my home, it would look like a brick home. The entire thing is covered all the way around by brick. Of course, the framing is done with wood, but then I have a layer of brick on the outside. I'm curious if European houses are done similar, or do you guys actually have like brick inside on your walls, like behind me? So this one's coming from the US Observer. I love these videos about like building houses, architecture. I've been blown away quite a few times. We've checked out some German houses. Love your guys' windows and your doors. Absolutely amazing, the thickness of the walls. But without further ado, let's hop in and see what we got going on here.
In Germany, 90% of new houses are built with brick or concrete blocks. In Italy, almost every residential structure is masonry. In Spain, the same. In the Netherlands, brick. In the United Kingdom, brick. Across the entire European continent, the standard residential wall is built from a material that lasts for hundreds of years and does not burn. In the United States, 90% of new single-family homes are framed with wood, 2x4s.
Okay, we're talking about
plywood,
framing.
oriented strand board. The same material a beaver uses, the same
4x4s as well, not just 2x4s. But a little clarification, he actually showed an image of 4x4s.
oriented strand board. The same material a beaver uses, the same material that catches fire in seconds, the same material that termites consider a buffet. 2 wealthy regions. Same century, same
And you can
access
get
to every
mold.
building technology on the planet. 2 completely opposite ways of constructing the most expensive purchase of an average person's life. Why? The standard answer is that America has more trees. And that is true. The country has one of the largest commercial forestry industries in the world.
I don't think that would be the reason that we have more trees. I mean, there's plenty of forests in Europe. I guess they're all in different countries. Our singular country just has, you know, our own forests.
Lumber is
but-
cheap,
Okay.
abundant, and renewable. But that explanation only describes how the system started. It does not explain why it stayed. Europe also had vast forests once. They cut them down centuries ago and switched to brick. They never went back. America had the same option in 2000 and chose wood. In 2026, even with mass timber technology and engineered concrete and prefab steel framing all available at competitive prices, 90% of new American homes are still wood.
Yeah, that's what they just kind of showed there. That's what I want to build my next home out of. We want to build a barnuminium. They're actually really affordable to build. I don't know if you guys have these too often. Barn culture is pretty big here in the South. So essentially you just build a massive barn, metal and concrete, and then that's your home. And you get a really big house for, I would say, about, gosh, what we've been looking at, like 30% less than you would spend on a wood home, and they're stronger. It's wild. I don't know why they're so much cheaper.
Not the trees. It is something economists call path dependence. Once a country sets up a building industry around one material, with its workers, its codes, its supply chains, and its bank financing, switching becomes nearly impossible, even when better materials exist.
Okay.
America locked in wood 300 years ago. Europe locked in brick 1,000 years ago. Both systems still run on the inertia of decisions nobody alive ever made. And here's the data that proves the difference is not just aesthetic. A wood-framed American house has an average lifespan of around 50 to 70 years before major reconstruction. A brick or concrete European house regularly stands for 200 to 500 years with maintenance.
Damn.
Some homes in Spain and Italy are still occupied after 700 years. The United States demolishes and rebuilds the same housing stock multiple times in the time Europe holds onto a single structure. 2 systems. 2 completely different relationships with the idea of home. So how did the split happen? Walk back to the 17th century. When European settlers arrived in North America, they encountered a forested continent on a scale they had never seen. Massive old-growth pine, oak, maple, cedar. The eastern half of the continent was essentially a wall of timber stretching from Maine to Florida. Estimates suggest the eastern woodlands covered roughly 1 billion acres before colonization. Cutting trees was not just permitted, it was strategic. Forests had to be cleared for farmland anyway. Wood was the cheapest, fastest, most abundant building material a colonist could possibly use. The first wave of American homes was not a design philosophy. It was the path of least resistance through a landscape buried in
Convenience.
lumber.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Europe had already been deforested. The continent had been clearing its forests.
I gotta check something here, because has Europe really been deforested? I'm really curious. Okay, so Europe has undergone significant historical deforestation, losing more than half of its forests over the past 6,000 years. Okay, that's pretty long time. Okay, so peak forest cover around 8,500 to 6,000 years ago. Let's see here if we get a little bit more info. Okay, so Europe broadly, including Russia, parts of Russia, forests cover roughly 40 to 46% of land area, make it one of the most forested continents relative to global averages. Europe holds about 25% of the world's forest area. Okay, so there's a lot of forest still in Europe. I had to get a little, I was like, the way it made it sound in the video was that like all of Europe has been deforested and there's nothing left. I was like, I have seen countless videos of like beautiful forests. So, all right, let's keep going.
Meanwhile, Europe had already been deforested. The continent had been clearing its forests for ships, firewood, and construction since the Middle Ages. By the 1500s, mature timber was a luxury good. Most European countries had no choice but to build with stone, brick, and lime mortar. The materials were heavier,
I love it.
slower to assemble, and required skilled labor. But there was no alternative. Europe ran out of wood before it ran out of demand for housing. That single resource gap, 3 centuries ago, sent the two continents down completely different industrial paths. In Europe, brickmaking became a regional craft. Every village had a kiln, every city had masons. Construction techniques were refined for hundreds of years around the assumption that walls were heavy, permanent, and assembled by hand. Building codes evolved around masonry. Bank loans were structured for properties that would last a century. Insurance assumed buildings would not catch fire. Skilled labor specialized in stone.
That's got to be a big thing. It's got to be because of how long people have been living in Europe and how many times they've had to deal with fires, especially in, old times. That would make sense why brick was kind of like the go-to to prevent house fires, which I can only imagine before we had, vehicles like fire trucks, having a house fire, the risk of having a house fire had to have been, you would outweigh building a wood home for a brick home because of that one reason. I think that's a huge key point.
In America, the opposite happened. The country invented balloon framing in the 1830s, a system that allowed a house to be assembled by a small team using nothing but standardized lumber.
Wait, what are those?
A system that allowed a house to be assembled by...
Do you know what this looks like? Have you guys seen, speaking of building homes, these right here? These are actually pretty impressive. How people are building like concrete homes with this machine that just kind of like goes around. I'm not too sure what this guy's saying, but this machine that just goes around and builds the entire house with this concrete. Wild. If they can actually make these houses, let me see if they have a finished one, what it looks like. If they can make these houses actually look somewhat appealing, I assume people might do it a little bit more. Here's a little bit. Sometimes they just, the edges are like really round, which is fine. But I think if they can kind of perfect that system, that would be something good that people can move to. But all right, we'll keep going. That's what that looks like right there, though. That's what made me think of that. Of course, this is much older.
By a small team, using nothing but standardized lumber, nails, and a hammer. No skilled masons were required. No expensive kilns were needed. Just sawmills and railroads. Within 50 years, balloon framing and its successor, platform framing, became the universal American method. The country could build a house in weeks, not months. That speed is not a footnote. It is the entire story. Wood framing makes American housing cheap. A standard wood-framed home costs 10 to 60% less than an equivalent brick or concrete home. Construction is faster, and labor requirements are lower. The materials are
I wouldn't say cheap. Houses are like crazy expensive right
easy
now.
to ship by rail or truck. Modifications are simple. Drywall comes off, new electrical goes in, drywall goes back on. An American contractor can throw up the bones of a house in 7 days with a crew that does not need years of specialized training. Masonry requires a different industry entirely.
Debatable.
Bricklayers must apprentice for years. Mortar must cure. Walls must be plumb. Plumbing and electrical have to be planned before the walls go up because retrofitting through brick is brutal. The whole process takes months, costs more, and depends on a labor force that simply does not exist in most of the United States. There are not enough trained masons in America to build the country at scale with brick, even if every developer wanted to. This is the path dependence trap. Wood is cheaper because the entire American construction industry is optimized for wood. Masonry is more expensive because nobody is set up to do it, and nobody gets set up to do it because masonry is more expensive. The cycle runs forward forever. Then there are the codes. American building codes are written around wood. Inspectors are trained on wood. Banks underwrite mortgages assuming wood. Insurance companies have actuarial tables built on the lifespan of a wood-framed home. Even when a developer wants to build with concrete, the financing, the inspection process, and the supply chain all push back toward the standard format. The system does not have to forbid masonry. It just makes it inconvenient enough that almost nobody bothers.
Yeah, I could assume that the permits and everything would be quite a bit. Most of our I would say 90% of our commercial buildings are not built out of wood. We don't really build any commercial buildings out of wood. It's just homes. But of course, that's a big company that's got a lot more money to spend on permitting. It's looking more long term to hold the value of the actual property. So, yeah.
Europe is the inverse. Try building a wood-framed single-family home in central Berlin. Building codes will block parts of it. Insurance will be more expensive. Resale value will collapse because buyers expect masonry. Banks will hesitate to finance it. The European market has been shaped around brick for so long that wood is treated as the exception, not the rule.
Ooh, those look so good, though. I love it.
Now look at what the American choice costs. In 2023, the National Fire Protection Association recorded over 380,000 residential structure fires in the United States.
Damn.
Roughly 2,800 civilians died. Thousands more were injured.
I'd really be curious to know how much of those were forest fires, though, because that's a lot. It's a big number. I mean, you look at, what was it, last year when the Palisades lit on fire? I think it was something crazy like 30,000, or it was in the tens of thousands of homes burned. But I guess they probably wouldn't have burned if they were built out of brick. A good part of them would have still caught on fire, but the bare bones would have still been there.
Property damage exceeded $11 billion in a single year. The fire death rate in the United States is roughly 3 times higher than in most Western European countries. Yeah. Germany is around 5.3 deaths per million. The United States is above 12. The country with 90% wood-framed homes burns at double the rate of countries with 90% masonry-framed homes. Hurricanes hit even harder. When a Category 4 storm passes through Florida, wood-framed homes shatter. Brick and block homes built to Florida code regularly survive intact. After Hurricane Andrew in 1992, Florida updated its codes and pushed concrete block construction in coastal zones. The houses built to that standard outlasted the storms that destroyed everything around them. The technology works. It just is not used nationally. Termites cost American homeowners around $5 billion per year in damage and treatment. European homeowners do not.
I used to have to deal with termites all the time when I lived on the West Coast. We don't really get termites too much here in the South. Have to deal with mold a whole lot more because it's so wet.
Have this expense at scale because termites cannot eat brick. Wildfires in California and the Pacific Northwest level entire neighborhoods of wooden homes in a single afternoon.
Yeah.
A masonry house in the same neighborhood often stands. And there is one more cost that nobody puts on the bill. A wood-framed home is designed to be replaced. Its lifespan is measured in decades, not centuries. When the structure deteriorates, the house is torn down and rebuilt. That cycle creates work for builders, suppliers, lenders, and insurance companies. It is good for GDP. It is terrible for wealth accumulation. A European family that bought a brick home in 1940 often passes that same home to grandchildren. An American family that bought a wood-framed home in 1970 is likely watching it crumble, while their property value depends on the land beneath it. The structure...
I think the home that I was raised in was built in, I want to say like 1910, and my mother actually just sold it about a year ago. I actually have a photo of it. You guys want to see what the house looked like that I grew up in? Look at that. That was my home for 18 years. Doesn't it look beautiful? 1 bathroom, 6 people. Wait, how many people we have living in there? 6 people living in here. Oh, it was a great time though. I absolutely loved it. It is a little broken down though. You can see it. It's a little beat up when she sold it. I think she still sold this home for $400,000. I think it's wild. It's in California. Everything's expensive there, but all right. All right, let's get back on track.
Is a depreciating asset. The dirt is the investment. There is movement at the edges. Concrete homes are growing in Florida hurricane zones. Insurance-driven masonry is appearing in wildfire areas. Mass timber and cross-laminated panels are starting to show up in commercial buildings. But residential construction at the national scale has not moved. Wood still wins because the entire industrial system is built to make wood win. 300 years ago, an American settler chose wood because the trees were free and the bricks were across an ocean. 300 years later, the trees are still free, the labor is still cheap, and an entire industry is still optimized for the same decision. Europe ran out of wood and accidentally built houses that last for centuries. America never ran out of wood and built houses that need replacing within a single human lifetime. So the question is this: will the United States ever break the wood cycle? Or is the country permanently locked into building disposable homes because that is what the system was built to do? Let me know what you think.
All right, that was a good video. I really like that. U.S. Observer, good job, man. Good job. I'm gonna give you a thumbs up. I think that a little bit of the information was slightly off, especially like the deforestation. Unless I'm missing something, maybe like the deforestation thing was happening a couple hundred years ago. No, you guys have been building brick homes forever. I don't know. Good video though. Appreciate you guys watching. I'll get out of here. Carry on with your day. Appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.